In a world searching for gaming knowledge comes the man, the myth, a legend in his own mind, Critical.
Welcome back, guys and gals. Critical here. Today I'm bringing you a game guide in Subsistence, and today is a little different. We are going to do a top 5 of what I think some of the best places to build a starter base are. Alright? Now please note, this is just my opinion based on my own personal play style and my thoughts on how an area can work or not work for you. So this is not the be-all, end-all of where you should build or how you should build. But it's just my, hey, if I'm going to put a starter base down, these are probably my top 5. So, with no further ado,
Number 5.
This area is someplace that I built on my first hardcore season. And my whole reasoning originally for building over here was the fact that this is about one of the most open areas of the entire game. What I mean by open is there is very little cover. The AI in the game is coded to go for trees and bushes. There's 3 bushes over there, 1 tree there, and then there's actually a bush behind the rock in the center over there, and then there's trees across the ways. I used to have hunters. Hold on, let me get my arrow out. I used to have hunters fighting me across there and then over here. Now that's probably the biggest information on this side is that this area is just, jam-packed. Now how I'm going to do this is I'm going to have pros and cons. Why I think this area is good and the problems with the area, because every area has problems. Even my number 1 has problems with it. So the pros here, all right, the first one is the ore. This rock face right here, that rock face over there, not so much that one or that one, but these 2 rock faces get a lot of ore. It would be like every day I step out and have 4 or 5 nodes of ore on either rock. I'd run around the entire day, come back, and there'd probably be some more ore waiting for me. There's a good source of wood for night farming, depending where you actually build the base. There's 3 trees right at the top of the hill, maybe a 4th one on the edge over there, but you've got one of the large trees that you get grubs from, and then a couple trees right here that you can somewhat safely farm at night. Be cautious for animals on the far side of the hill that can charge up at you. And like I said, it's a clean area, little cover for hunters to take cover, but it's not very flat. It's just a nice clean area. If you build in this lower area down here, there's no heat source needed. You're right on the spread between warm and or cold, so it shouldn't be an issue. And then there is a very common locked crate area right along that ridge. Right along here, I see lock crates over here a lot. So it's very possible to have a lock crate basically at your front door every couple days. And that's also a nice little bonus. Now, the cons to this area, there's no water source nearby. There's the one lake over there, and of course Center Lake, which is down there. So that's the South Lake, and that's Center Lake. So it's not that it's hard to get to, but you have to go through a lot of animals to get down to it. And you might have to go through hunters, depending if you have hunters turned on and where they spawn at. There are some line of sight issues. If you're down here, if you're built down here, you can't see over the rock. You can't see behind you. Now, the rock gives you some nice coverage, kind of, but you can see your line of sight is kind of cut off in here. Something to definitely take note of. And then the rocks over here are low enough, and there is ample area for the hunters to run over the hill and come, that they can actually attack you from the top of the rock, which makes it very tricky. You can have a base where you have an exit going out there and an exit coming over here, and find yourself with a set of hunters over there attacking you, and a part of that group or another set of hunters attacking you from behind on the hill. So it gives you some defensive posture, but not very good defensive posture.
Number 4.
Ore cave. Now, there's not a lot of ore in the cave, but this one is huge for the amount of ores that I found. Now, it's not that you can't find ore in the cave, but I find, look at that right there. There's usually a ton of ore on the top of this rock. You can build on top of the rock if you'd like, or you can build in the cave. And if you guys are watching my current season 3 on my solo co-op world, I have built in the cave suspended from the ceiling. You can build on the ground. You can build an entire house here and not even touch the rocks. It is so cool. So the pros for this area. You have, like I said, originally it's the ores. All the ores that you have in the area. Second, there's a locked box area just over there. It's between, I'd say about there, sweeping to about there, that you can find a locked box in this area. So it's fairly common. I see them over there. The large cave system that's easy to build in. It's not the flattest ground, but if you're in here, they only have one bush right there and one bush right there. If your base is right here, they've got a tree and 2 bushes, and that's it. Now, probably the biggest thing is that they don't attack from this side. The hunters only attack from this side. Unless you step outside, they won't come to this side. Now, if you're outside of the base on this side and they're attacking, they will come around. But if you're anywhere inside your base in this middle area, they will only attack from this side. So it gives you a strategic advantage if you're looking for one. And there's no heat source needed. You're low enough on the map that you should not need a heat source living over here. Cold shouldn't be an issue. Unless, of course, you're wet. Remember that. If you have no clothes on and you're wet, you better have a fire. But I want one anyways. Now, the cons to this area, no water source near the base. Now, there is the big lake just over there. And you can actually see the lake from here, so it's not that far. You also have the West Lake right over there. And Center Lake is just over there as well. But it's not convenient. You have to go a distance. There's a lot of wood in the area, but water is an issue. Something you need to keep in mind of. There can be line of sight issues depending on how or where you build your base. You can have line of sight issues because you're lower. Let's say your front of your base was right here. Oh, you got this big rock blocking your vision. The hill blocks your vision. And there's a lot of places for them to hide. So you got to consider the best places to build. It's also close to the fence line. That's probably the biggest drawback to this area if you're building this as your first base. The fence line is just on the other side over there. And that means you'll probably see a hunter base there, possibly one over there, and maybe one over there, depending on what difficulty level you're playing on. And it is possible the hunters can hem you into the point where you only have one, if, maybe 2 directions you can leave that might be safe from hunters. So that's something you definitely want to think
Number
about.
3.
This one is a little bit of a cheat. Okay, it's 3 different locations. Basically, it's it's either the South Pond, the West Pond, or the Big Lake. Each of the ponds have some different benefits and cons to them. But when you're looking at where you want to build, the ponds have a benefit, of course, of having water. Most of the ponds and the Big Lake, you won't need any type of heat source because they're low enough on the map that heat shouldn't be an issue. It's not that it won't be, it just probably shouldn't be an issue. You'll have water, of course, and fishing. Kelp is a food source. Building on the ponds and the lake can affect hunter attacks, so take that into consideration. And it's usually, especially if you're building, a suspended building on top of water, it's a flat surface you can build on. Now, the cons to these locations, depending on how, if you're inside at the middle of the big lake, you're going to have an issue with having land so you can put down a mining drill and your chicken coop. So keep that in mind. The reeds, especially at some of the ponds, are really bad, but the reeds give the hunters perfect cover because you can't see through that, but they can see and shoot at you. They still know where you're at, even if they're behind the reeds. That is very detrimental to dealing with hunter attacks. And then, depending on how you build, especially like in the big lake, you might have to have like a land bridge that gets you out to your house, and that's extra materials. It can be an avenue for attack, like a bear can run across that as well, so you got to keep that in mind. This lake, this pond right here, is very close to the fence line, so the hunters can hem you in. The big lake is a much larger area. They can't hem you in, but they can hem you in depending on how you build your base. If you don't have multiple land bridges or, wooden bridges that you've created to allow you to escape from one side to another, that can become an issue. These 3 locations are good. They provide a lot of benefits, but the benefits sometimes don't outweigh some of the negatives that they come with. So something you got to keep in mind. And definitely with the way the Hunter AI is right now, if you build inside one of the ponds right in the middle or in the big lake, it is possible that the hunters will never attack your base. That can be a pro or a con. If you don't want the hunters to attack your base without changing the way they function, even though Cold Games says give that to you, that might be a benefit. But if you enjoy the interaction with the hunters, it could be a detriment. It could be a con to living there. You'll have to decide for yourself. The next 2 are really hard to separate. Which one is number 1 and which one is number 2? It was really hard for me to decide between these 2. Number 2. Okay, number 2 is the central pond. All right, so this is the center of the map. It's one of the lowest areas on the map. No heat source will be required. The 3/4 rocks over here, actually 5 rocks, because you have that one right there, that one right there, this one, and this one, all can spawn ores. So those are decent locations for getting ores. It's mostly a clear area. You can build where you like. Now, it's not clear as in there's no defenses for the hunters, but depending on where you place where you place your house, it can give you some defensive. Like if you build right here in this little nook right here, the hunters can't get behind or on top of you very easy, and it can be pretty easy to block for them. You'll have like one tree, and this is your fighting area, but you have good line of sight. You can see up these hills. You can't see behind you, but that shouldn't be an issue in this location. You could try building on top of the rocks, which gives you a commanding view and, good line of sight, but then you have the issue is the hunters can attack you because you're up there. You could try building in the center area, but you kind of lose that line of sight battle I was talking about, but you still have good access to the water. So, it's a give and take. There, of course, there's water, there's fishing, the wood and fiber right across the pond over here. So if you were to go across this pond, there's a lot of wood right there. Literally right on the pond's edge. You can build on the pond and just disregard this part. But of course, you'll have all the cons that come with building in around a pond. There are 2 lock crate areas. There's a lock crate area right over there. And then from area 5's, my least favorite area, but I still like the area, just least favorite of this top 5. There's a lock crate area right up along here. So that's all really good cons. It's also really good pros. It's also very easy to find because it's right in the middle of the map. It's not one of those difficult things where you have to go, it should be easy to find. Almost no matter where you're out of the map, just head toward the center away from the fence line, and you should reach the center of the map. It should be a little easier for you to find, especially in the beginning of the game when you don't know where you're going. Now, the cons. Reeds around the pond. Depending on where your hunters spawn in, that could possibly be an issue. And then it's just kind of a bear and wolf crossing zone where the bears and the wolves seem to mingle in this area. So depending on what difficulty level you're playing at, this can be more or less of an issue for you. But be aware that it is possible to have bears literally spawn on your doorstep. But that's it as far as I'm concerned for cons in this area.
Number one.
What I like to call Point Defiance. Right here on the beach, the shoreline of the big lake. This, by far to me, is one of the best build areas. Here's why. Ores. You have several rocks very close, large rock formations that can form ores on them. This rock right here is where I built on when I would build Point Defiance, and there were always ore deposits almost every day and morning. And since I built part of the base into the rock, I didn't have to leave my house to mine ores. It was actually pretty cool. Of course, you have a water source and fishing right at your doorstep, or you could build here and use this as your front door. You know, this would be the front of your base, and you still have the beach and have all, access 24/7 to the water. There's a large beach area for looting of both bags and plants. They're very easy to see here on the sand. And then this sound right here helps identify that you have hunters coming in. You can hear them a little bit easier because of the quality of the sound. Good line of sight. Right there's a hunter location on this world. There's a regular hunter base over here, so I can see them. I've got good line of sights to hunters and stuff in this area, rogue and regular hunters alike. Animals are easy to see here. That rabbit, there's a bear over there. Like I said, really good area. No heat source needed in this area. It's low enough and far enough away from the mountain. That shouldn't be an. You have a large rock for back defense. You can build with your back against that rock, against this rock. I know Bloodstalker is building on the back side of that rock. You can build out in the water using that rock as a foundation area if you'd like. It's mostly a clean area if building, on or near the beach. I mean, these bushes and trees will give the hunters a location to fight from, but it's far enough away and it's sparse enough that you can create fields of fire to lock the hunters into certain locations, which makes it easier for you to plan out your base. It's mostly a flat building area. I mean, there is an uptick over here, but if you start building at a higher point, like right here, and build down, it won't be a detriment. Or if you build in the water up to the beach, it also shouldn't be an issue. And it's easy to find. It's right at the end of the waterfall. The first waterfall that Co-op Games added to the game literally comes right out of the base of the mountain. Right there is the waterfall, and it comes and it kind of winds down, and it outlets into the lake right here, making this base a pretty decent one to find. Good food sources with the bags, the plants, and of course the kelp. Now, the only con that I see to this location is the fence line is onto that, just on the other side of those 3 rock formations. It's the closest fence line. Depending where you put your base in this area, in that one in the cove, maybe you want to put it between those 2 rocks or over here, that fence line could cause some issues with the way the hunters spawn around you. But beyond that, this is my favorite place to build in the game. To me, it has the best of all worlds. Now, the big question is, what do you guys think? What are your favorite places to build? What are the problems that I don't see with the ones that I chose? Or do you have even more cons or more positives for each area that maybe you saw something I didn't see? Let me know. Now, this game guide was telling you where to build. Because like they say when it comes to real estate, location, location, location means everything. What you build in your first base, that's going to be our next guide. What I will consider Critical's basic build guide. But that'll have to happen in the next episode. I've been Critical. This has been a game guide for Subsistence. I hope you guys have enjoyed this content. If you have, drop a like, consider subscribing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Bye.